Hi, everybody. Welcome to this second day of our Congress. And this session is about assessment in adolescence. We have 5 nice presentations, some in person, some online. So I'm just going to give the floor to our first presenter, who is Katia Terrio, development of a multidimensional scale for identifying the risk of dropping out.
Thank you. Good morning. So I'm an assistant professor at CNAM in Paris. So I'm happy to be here because assessment is central for me in teaching, in research, and in my practice. So I apologize for my English because I don't have much opportunity to practice it. So I'm going to talk about development of a multidimensional scale for identifying the risk of dropping out of school. Sorry, it doesn't work. I must. It's okay. Thank you. Dropping out of school is defined as the culmination of a multifactorial process that leads a young person to leave education system before obtaining a diploma. In French, we have only one term, dropping out. But in English, there are 2 terms, dropping and drop out. So I think you know a difference between the 2 terms. In France, the official definition is that you must leave education system, but there are people who are at school, but they are in a process of disaffiliation of school. It's dropping. It's a problem of equal concern to industrialized and developing countries. So it's a multifaceted term. It's a multifactorial, cumulative, slow, progressive process. Diploma is an important bulwark against exclusion and allows access to decent work. So preventing and remediating it's a major societal issue. So it's a complex problem, as I said. Dropout factors are multiple, cumulative. There is no single factor, but a combination of several factors within the school system, such as the climate school, relations between students, relations between teachers, students, relations between other persons at school, pedagogy used, and there are factors external to the school system, which can be family factors as parenting style, sociocultural level, personal factors, such as academic self-esteem, learning disabilities, motivation, depression, etc. The approach to the dropout phenomenon has evolved in recent research. First, there was a focus on dropouts. Youths were defined as that and were responsible of dropping out. Secondly, we were supporting young people who have dropped out of the school, and now we focus on analysis of the factors that promote school retention with a view to prevention. So it's a complex phenomenon that requires a complex approach. We need to focus more on the organization of school systems and public policies than on individual characteristics. We need to promote school retention rather than fight against dropping out. And we must offer universal prevention for all students. So I will present you an illustration of this change with a project, an European project with our star university, Teresa Granger. So it's PRIMO, an European project research. We worked with a team at CNAM, and the initial request was to develop a platform for identifying students at risk of dropping out of school. So an approach focused on individual characteristics, but we changed that with our questionnaire. So our objective was the identification of not the identification of young people who are dropping out, but help young people. So do you know what is it?
No, just push OK.
Okay.
Click OK.
Okay. So we want to help young person to develop reflexivity about school experience. We have opted for a holistic approach. We are centered in particular on the principle of adjunctivity. And we didn't want diagnostic or prospective purposes. And our objective was to change representation of dropping out. So our questionnaire deals with the relationship to school in general, how students experience middle or high school and how they view them. The questionnaire has 129 questions for middle school students and 132 questions for high school students. The difference was on a scale on orientation. The passing time is about 40 minutes, and there were 21 or 22 dimensions. Sorry? No. And 32 scales. It's a big questionnaire, 32 scales. So you can see all scales we have in this questionnaire. So school climate, relationships to adults, perception of their place in small group, life context, personal factors like academic self-esteem, life satisfaction, perseverance, reflexivity, relationship to knowledge or learning, importance of evaluation, report to evaluation, school standards, sense of school justice, locus of control, sense of evaluation, resistant to academic pressure on burnout school, emotions, positive and negative, classroom climate, relationships with other students, and guidance skill, guidance decision, and choices. So there were 4 studies, and we have several data, as you can see. And I will present you some results. So for the study 2, we studied internal validity, and you can see that we have 6 scales which have an alpha below 0.70 and 3 with an alpha close to the threshold and 3 with an alpha further from the threshold. That makes the scales more problematic. Autonomy support, listening, and locus of control. The others are okay. And we also, all CTC corrected item test correlation are okay, except for one item. So it's okay. After we made a factor analysis on all items, which reveals 31 dimensions, explaining 83.6% of the total variance. So the theoretical structure of the questionnaire is broadly consistent, even if some scales are grouped together and some items seems to have more to do with the scale other than their initial one. So the questionnaire could be further improved. We also collected additional data from 94 students, so repetition grades, identified as dropout by teachers, grade point average, number of absence during the year, number of exclusion, number of warnings, because we need objective data. And we found a correlation of 0.46, for example, between academic average and academic self-esteem. This is in line with other data found in the literature. And we found also correlation of 0.35 between number of absence and external locus of control. So it's in line with other data too. In study 3, we, in addition to the Primo scale, we also administered a scale on the intention to drop out. It contains 3 items, so the alpha are okay, and we found all correlations with Primo scales except with the intention to drop out, except evaluation anxiety, reflexivity, and positive emotions. Positive emotions are not correlated with intention of dropout. And we also ran a regression to identify the factors most predictive of intention to drop out. The model included all factors, explain 53% of the explained variance of intention to drop out. And there are 5 key factors: orientation, negative emotions, especially anxiety. It's the most negative emotions in the intention to drop out. Perseverance, school perseverance, sense of security, and importance of evaluation. So, we found protective factors, orientation chosen, decrease negative emotions, and particularly anxiety, increase perseverance, increase sense of security in the school, security feelings, and making school evaluation less central in school. In France, evaluation is central, very central, and many students are anxious, and it's a very problem for dropping out. So this year we need more data, and the next month we have new data. We will have new data, and we want to do a longitudinal study to complete this data. It's a beginning, but it's not finished. So thank you. I think it's okay for the time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will ask one question, and
if I
but
can
I think
answer.
I'm not sure. I think there was a mistake in the slide, because there was For orientation, the relationship was, for sense of security, the
Yeah.
relationship was positive, but then the t-value was negative, so I think it should have been negative, no? The more the sense of security, the lower. So yes, I mean,
Yes.
I was surprised at the beginning, so but yes, it's just a mistake, no? It's a negative.
Yeah,
Minus
it's a
point.
sense of insecurity.
Okay, so
Yes.
the t-value is the one that is the other way,
Yeah.
one of the two. Yes. Okay, and
It's no, it's yes, you are. Like,
it's okay.
yeah.
It's okay. So my question is, because you want like to establish universal recommendations in trying, I mean, I think it's a very relevant topic and it's a very important issue, and you are taking care of taking this multi-factor and also contextual approach to understand the phenomenon. But I mean, instead, in terms of recommendations, do you think that you can provide general recommendations for everybody? Like it's going to be so universal? I mean, because if you are thinking of different questions for different levels of, so I don't know, how do you think?
Yes, but I think this recommendation with these variables, I think we can say that, for example, students say that teachers don't help students with orientation, and there is a big anxiety in France with orientation. It's a big problem at different levels in the school, and because there is a pressure on students, so they need help of teachers, but also of school psychologists, to have them to make choices. And I think the most problem, yes, it's anxiety. It's very, very important in French school. I don't know if it's the same thing in other schools. And I think it's the first thing we can change at school. It's linked with orientation, but with importance of evaluation.
Okay, and thank you. And one recommendation or two recommendations related with the statistical techniques.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know if you carried out, but I mean, you are just reporting alpha, and some of them are like, and you know, alpha requires that all relationships between the item and the factor are equally strong. So perhaps if you relax that and try with omega or something, perhaps your indices improve. And I wouldn't use the eigenvalue larger than 1 to decide about the number of factors, because normally there are more factors and it's already a complex model. So I could try other statistical methods like parallel analysis or other to decide about the number of factors to see if you can get a more parsimonious.
I know.
But, no, I mean, yes.
Yeah.
But okay, very interesting. Thank you. Okay, so I think now we have an online presentation, so we can close this one. And
yeah, good morning.
Good morning. So you are Elisa?
Yes.
Del Vecchio, and she's sorry, Manicelli, because okay, and she's going to present a study on validation of an instrument of the difficulties in emotion regulation scale, the short form in Italian adolescence.
Okay, thank you. I've shared my slides. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Shall I try again? Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you. Well, first of all, my apologies for not being able to be there, but I'm a PhD student from the University of Padua, and I'm currently doing my visiting so this is the reason why I cannot be there with you all. As already said, today I will present to you a study that regards the Italian validation of the difficulty in emotion regulation scales in adolescents specifically, which is indeed particularly important given the specific characteristics of this developmental period, which is characterized by a multitude of different multi-level changes at the biopsychosocial level, which altogether set the basis, as we all know, for low regulation capacities, either be more general in terms of like the broader concept of self-control, but then also more specifically as regards emotion regulation, indeed strongly linked also to the developing neurological areas. You know, we have a kind of properly developed lower areas which are related to, you know, the activations of emotions and so on, but the frontal ones are still not properly ready to modulate this kind of bottom activation. These altogether then set the basis for quite an array of psychological problems, emotional behavioral problems, which could have an influence on the well-being on the adolescents during the adolescent periods, but also later on during adulthood, with, you know, consequences on the development for other, maybe also more severe issues. In this, the literature, both like research and clinical practice, is recognizing always more the value of emotional regulation as a transdiagnostic process that could be of great focus and interest also during, obviously, clinical practice. And in that, being able to evaluate and also work on emotional regulation capacities and strategies becomes key, especially during adolescence with this still developing brain. Here we specifically focus on the difficulty in emotional regulation scale, which starts from the theorizations of Gratz and Romer, which sees emotional regulation as a multidimensional construct characterized by mainly 6 broad dimensions, which then represent the 6 scales of this measure. Or the original ones count 36 items, while the short form usually 18, which of course of value because it's way easier and light, or especially for adolescents to fill in. The different scales and dimensions that we have regard the strategy, which basically is related to one's capacity to trust, one's ability to choose the most adaptive regulations, strategies, and to modulate one emotional experience. Goals, which instead is related to a difficulty in deploying attention to be able to pursue current goals and even reach long-term goals. We have impulse, which is strictly linked to difficulties in modulating impulses and behavioral responding as a consequence of a negative emotional experience. Clarity, which is a kind of a more prior process, we could say, together with awareness, and regards the capacity to a difficulty to properly distinguish and recognize the different emotions, while awareness is related to the broader self-awareness of the emotional experience in a broader sense. And last, we have non-acceptance, which is quite self-explanatory, the non-acceptance of the emotion felt. These measure, both the full length and the short form, are actually quite widely used. So there are a multitude of validations in different countries. And actually, quite recently, in 2023, Rossi published the Italian validation of the short form on adults, but we are still lacking the adolescent one. So here we are. And although overall the 6-factor structure of the measure has been quite sustained, there are also, though, some researchers that have observed quite some issues with the awareness subscales. But we will get into it later on, as actually is quite aligned with what we are observing. Reason for which the data and results that I'm showing you today are actually quite preliminary, because we are conducting further analysis with more complex models to better understand the specific contributions of the different subscales within the broader construct of emotional regulation. The aim is to validate the measure on Italian adolescents. We've tested the goodness of fit of the six-factor model and of the monofactorial model with the total score. We've then also tested the external convergent validity, and we've performed also a test to verify the measurement invariance as regards both gender and age group, differentiating between pre-adolescents, so 11, 13, and adolescents 14, 17. Overall, we have 704 adolescents, quite balanced between male and females, as well as the age groups, although the adolescent period is slightly positively skewed. And data were collected mainly in Northern Italy, thanks to a project that is active in school. Some data collected during school hours, or others, because of COVID, were collected in a similar way, but remotely. We have administered their short form together with the strengths and difficulties questionnaire and the smartphone addiction inventory to test the external validity. For the SDQ, we have considered the internalizing problem and externalizing problems, while for the smartphone addiction, the total score. And here you can see the analysis we've performed, the two models I was talking about before. We've done so using the Lavan package, so evaluating them as SEM models, and also considering as fit indices, the chi-square together with two absolute and two relative goodness of fit indices, so the CFI, TLI, NMSA, and SRMR. As for the convergent validity, we have performed Pearson-R correlation as well as path analysis, and with the measurement invariance, we have performed a sequential process of testing nested models, so from the configural, the metric, and the structural invariance. So imposing always increasing restrictions basically on the model to evaluate if it changes between the groups. Here we have the main results. M1 would be the model you can see here in the picture, so the six-factor structure, which was actually supported. This is related to the original theorization of Gratz and Romer, so we consider the six-factor correlated. And we see that all fit indices are high, are adequate, and also the factor loading are all quite high. They are higher than 0.49. However, when we tested the monofactorial model, we've actually observed that the fit indices were not so satisfying, as you can see here, M2. And what we observed was that actually issues were related to the subscales of awareness, in line with what I was saying before, as the loadings were below 0.25. We then retested the model, the monofactorial one, M3, dilating these scales, and the fit indices slightly improve, especially the absolute ones, but they're not still 100%, let's say, satisfactory. Which is the reason why, as I was telling you before, we are now trying to test further models, in particular bifactorial models, in a way that we can better single out the specific variance and contribution of the different subscales in relation also to the broader construct. And let me tell you that the results are actually quite in line also with what I'm talking about right now, thereby suggesting that it is quite proper to use the six-factor structure, so the singular subscales, but the monofactorial one, so the total score, should be used dilating the awareness subscales, actually. Here we have the result of the measurement invariance, and we confirm that there is invariance between the groups, so both with gender and age group. And here instead we have the results of the convergent validity. Again, it is supported like the issues we could say with the awareness subscales. Here, these are the correlations with the other DARES subscales, which are all quite low, to the exception of clarity, because they are quite close as construct. While both from the correlation and the path analysis performed, we see that we have quite strong significant association with our kind of external variables and the that there's a subscales, which we have considered in the path analysis as independent variable, seeing how they influence smartphone addiction, smartphone addiction, internalizing symptoms and externalizing symptoms. And particularly, we saw that two of the most valuable scales actually for all three these variables are the clarity and the goal subscales. Okay, so overall, our conclusion, as I was saying before, support the 6-factor structure, but not the total score. But if the awareness subscales is related, actually the reliability of the measure and the soundness of the construct is better supported, which is in line with quite a body of literature. Although, you know, further analysis obviously need to be conducted so that we can also better understand how the different subscales can contribute to the broader construct. The limits regard to what I was saying already before. So we have that the adolescence group as regard the measurement in virus testing was likely skewed positively. And also the fact that we could not test at this moment the divergent validity because of the scales that we had available, but those that we had were already quite sounding in allowing us to support the validity of the measure overall. Here we have some of the references that I've considered during this presentation. And well, thank you all for your attention. If you have questions, you can see here my email.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions? But I'm just curious about the measurement invariance analysis, because I mean, of course, because it was a fast presentation, so perhaps I missed something.
Yeah.
But were you considering the sub-factors there? Because I mean, I just see the configural metric and strong, sorry,
Yeah.
I guess. But
I've tested.
Doing scale by scale for the 6 dimensions?
Yes.
Or?
Yes, my apology, I have not specified this. Yes, I've tested the measurement invariance on the 6-factor structure, not the monofactorial one.
Okay. So good luck with continuing on this line.
Okay, thank you.
For the presentation. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
We are going to go to our third presentation, relationships between self-control and problematic social media use in Italian adolescents, the important role of assessment. And it's going to be presented by Giorgio Bisogni.
Good morning to everyone. I'm Giorgio Ghizzoni and I'm a PhD student of the University of Perugia. Today I'm going to show you a study about the relationship between self-control and problematic social media use in Italian adolescents. First of all, I want to discuss with you the history about social media. That in the first time it was the Web 1.0, then the Web 2.0, now we are going to the Web 3.0. When we refer to the began to use the social media, we have to think about when Web 2.0 was born. Web 2.0 is a term that was used in the first time in 2004 to describe the new way in which software developers and end users began to use the World Wide Web. So the web where people can keep and enter in touch each other and have a instantly messaging. From this case, content applications are no longer created and published by individuals, but are continuously modified by all users in a participative and collaborative manner. Then I want to describe and to define what is the difference between social media and social network, because it's usually to represent these two terms in an interchangeably way inside the scientific literature. However, they are not the same, because when we refer to social media, we have to think about a wide range of social applications like collaborative project, like Wikipedia, blog, content community, like YouTube, social networking site like Facebook, virtual game world, virtual social world. Then when we refer to social network, we have to think about a virtual community where users can create individual public profile and interact with a real life friend. So this is a key word that can allow us to understand the difference, because in a social network there is the word interaction. And of course the use is different, because in a social media use, that refers to the Web 2.0 capabilities of processing, sharing, and collaborating on content online, while social network use is a focus center on connecting people, which is not a key element of social media. And today, we have to think that a lot of people use social media, but in particular, adolescents. In fact, there are no doubt that today young spend a lot of time on social media, and there are studies that there was a large-scale study conducted in 29 countries in Europe, North America, and Middle East that showed that the average prevalence of adolescents using social media is 34%. And in addition, there were two large-scale studies among European adolescents conducted in 2014 and 2015 that showed that the prevalence of addiction like problematic social media use was 4.5% and 9.1%. Because we refer to problematic social media use in adolescents, there are possible cases that bring people, and in this case adolescents, to a problematic use of social media. For example, the need to belong to society and to reduce loneliness, the need to increase self-esteem and self-concept, the negative childhood experience such as abuse or insecure attachment style, or a difficulties to relating their emotion, depression and anxiety disorder. After that, there are possible consequences that are excessive attention to various social media, a lot of hours that people spend on social media, poor control over access, and anxiety, of course, and irritability, isolation, and a lot of time that people spend more on social media than on physical activity and relationship. Problematic social media use have different characteristics, in particular compulsive and uncontrollable use, attention and excessive time that people spend, no access control, anxiety and irritability when access the need. Because we refer to adolescents with problematic social media use typically have a diminished ability to regulate this social media use impulse. That is a key word that we have to take in consideration. Feel discomfort such as stress or anxiety when social media use is restricted, and have a social media use on top of their mind constantly. So after this, why is it important to assess problematic social media use? Because first of all, problematic social media use is not recognized as a true mental disorder by the World Health Organization and by the American Psychiatric Association. Then because in the literature, as we told before, there is much confusion about the use of this term. For example, as we told before, there is an interchangeably use of this term: problematic social media use, problematic social network use, social media disorder, social media addiction, problematic internet use in general, and internet addiction. Due to the problem of inconsistency regarding the definition of problematic, excessive, or addictive social media use, there is also a lack of reliable and valid psychometric scale to assess the phenomenon of problematic social media use. The problematic use, in the end, of social media can become a real addiction if the adolescent finds himself constantly thinking about social media and constantly using them. So, about this, it's important to understand and to assess the problematic social media use to better understand the phenomenon by distinguishing it from other aspects, and to create a specific assessment useful for prevention and possible treatment. So to understand problematic social media use, that bring us to understand what is addiction, and in particular to prevent the social media addiction. as we told before, adolescents with a problematic social media use have low ability to control their impulse. And so it's about this that is important, the self-control, because self-control is the ability to override or modify one's internal response and interrupt unwanted behavioral tendencies and refrain from acting on them. And it's a personal ability to manage his or her own behavior. And in relation to problematic social media use is really important, because also several studies have demonstrated that lower self-control is associated with problematic social media use. And in addition, lower self-control predict also a higher problematic social media use. About our study, the aim of our study was to exploring whether a low self-control may predict more problematic social media use. We hypothesized that, considering that the few exciting international studies on several of pre-adolescent, young adult, and adult state that a low level of self-control may predict a more problematic use of social media, we hypothesize that this may also be true for a sample of Italian adolescents from central Italy. Our participants were 208 Italian adolescents from central Italy, aged from 14 to 17 years old. And from our analysis, the sample was homogeneous. The tool that we used were a Bergen social media addiction scale, that is a self-report questionnaire with 6 items in a 5-point Likert scale, and then the brief self-control scale with a 13 item in a 5-point Likert scale. For the data analysis, we used the statistical package for social science. The result that we found were that the problematic social media use score are in line with the score of Chernilia, and then the 100% of participants use social media. Then people don't spend a lot of hours during their weekend on social media by using social media, but the important result was also that people use a lot of social media during the pandemic situation. What we have found was really interesting, because there were a negative correlation between problematic social media use and self-control. And to understand the nature of this relation, we understand that a lower self-control also predict a higher problematic social media use. So a little take-home message. Given the confusion within the scientific literature, it is necessary to develop a specific tool to assess the whole aspect of a complex and confusing phenomenon, such as problematic social media use. And also, for us, it is necessary to implement prevention and training program within school and family context to promote the development of good self-control to prevent problematic social media use in adolescents. Thank you for your attention.
Questions or comments on this presentation? Curiosity?
Thank you for reminding me that I'm more adolescent than I thought. The profile of adolescence is very interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, probably it lasts more than ever, the adolescence, I guess. What's right? Okay. Okay.
Online Chinese message.
Oh, a question? Okay, let's see. Thank you. How do we see the question online? Okay. No, not that one. In the chat? Oh, they're in the chat. Okay. No.
Is it possible that a long-term problematic social media use undermines the ability to control oneself?
This is what we want to understand because as I told before, there is not a specific assessment, and we know that there is a prediction about the lower self-control to a higher problematic social media use. But what we want to understand is then by using specific tools to these two different aspects.
But I think that, I agree that it's very important, but I think that you can use as a mediator with other variables, between, what is your aim and other kind of tools that you really need to add, because I think that the topic is very always. I agree that social control, self-control is a very important basic factor. But maybe we have to put, for instance, about regulation of emotion or other kind of things that we put in there. Otherwise, to get just to variable, it's really a very big.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you that self-control is something very basic, and in the literature about adolescence, it's very important. But you need to add a more speech.
To increase,
I also have a curiosity when you are asking in the questionnaire, because we didn't see the items, like items are referred, I mean, if I think of typical questionnaires, I refer to social media or they give examples. Because perhaps, I mean, people, when they answer social media, they don't know if it's social media, social networks, because if that confusion is among experts, probably people really don't know what you are referring to. So I think, we need to take that into consideration also when we ask the questions, if we really want to differentiate the different types of things.
I think that it's better to understand what is the difference, and to explain what are the difference between social media and social network before to give
because probably they any other please.
And I think to produce answers, and I think for the future a better mediation or a pattern model will be explained the relationship better.
I think in the future we could
we need to understand it. Okay, thank you very much. We are going to move to our next presentation by Lorenzo Rienza. He's online, I think. Lorenzo.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, you?
Yes, I will.
Okay, Agatha. Okay.
Yeah.
I just read the first author. Agatha
Yeah.
Anto is the one that is going to present the paper on cognitive emotion regulation strategies in mediators and non-mediators, a multi-method psychological assessment. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Can you hear me and see the slide, my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. I would like to introduce myself briefly. I'm Agatha Ando, and I work at University of Turin. And my research interests are related to the psychological assessment and in particular to the Rorschach test, according to ERPAS method. So today I will present you a study on cognitive emotion regulation strategies in meditators and non-meditators. And in this study, we used a multi-method psychological assessment, potentially able to gather and evaluate some aspect, both implicit and explicit, related to emotional regulation. So, cognitive emotion regulation strategies are cognitive responses to emotional eliciting events that consciously or not attempt to modify the magnitude or type of individual's emotional experience. So you can see the main psychological constructs under investigation in this study: threat rumination and thought suppression. So after we can talk about meditation. So threat rumination represents a maladaptive thinking style associated with the tendency to focus in a repetitive way on the experience of negative emotion and causes and consequences. And this psychological construct is strongly related to the thought suppression. Thought suppression is a strategy referring to attempts to suppress negative thoughts can lead to a subsequent rebound effect. So I can try to suppress undesired thoughts, but I can feel overwhelmed because there is an increased accessibility of the suppressor thoughts. So in some cases, the ability to suppress can be considered a resource or a good adaptive capacity. Why not? If people can accept this kind of negative intrusive thoughts, or if people sometimes can take a distance from the intrusive negative mental thoughts, for example, by using meditation. So meditation is a set of complex emotion and attention regulation practices that encompass various processes, including those of attention, cognitive, monitoring, and consciousness. Meditation is a practice related to specific features, attention regulation, body awareness, emotional regulation, and the most famous types of meditation are two. And in this study, we focused on open monitoring. This practice is based on an attentional style characterized by soft and less focused mindfulness, combined with a non-judgmental awareness of sensory, cognitive, and affective experience in the present moment. Overall, open monitoring is related to awareness of ongoing mental processes. In these studies, we aimed to explore some features related to the context of emotional regulation. Specifically, we aimed to investigate which cognitive emotional regulation strategies there are in meditators and non-meditators, if there are differences in the use of adaptive cognitive emotional regulation strategies, for example, reflection or reprisal between meditators and non-meditators, and if the multi-method psychological assessment we used, it was able to capture later some strategies, implicit or conscious, related to emotion regulation strategies. This is our sample. The original sample consists of 92 subjects. The final sample was of 17 subjects. 35 subjects were meditators and 35 subjects were non-meditators. So meditators were individuals who meditated regularly, at least 3 hours per week for at least 1 year. And the non-meditators, individuals who have never practiced mindfulness or meditation. I would like to report this full slide to show you the characteristics of self-reports we used. The first, it was a rumination and reflection questionnaire, RRQ. It is a 24-item self-report measure of self-consciousness that can evaluate 2 dimensions. The first, it is a dimension positively motivated reflection, and the second, it was a negative motivated dimension that was a rumination. We used also there's difficulties in emotion regulation scale, and as described my colleagues, before, is a complex tools. In this case, we used the brief version, a tools that can evaluate some dimension related to difficulties in emotion regulation, such as non-acceptance, goals, difficulties in engaging goal-directed cognition behavior when distressed, strategies, impulsivity, clarity scale. And also we included in our study a self-report potentially able to evaluate some adaptive emotion regulation strategies such as cognitive reappraisals. But ERQ, or emotion regulation questionnaire, it is a tool that can evaluate also the expression suppression strategies when an individual tries to suppress strongly the emotion, the expression of emotion. Also, we used the mindfulness attention awareness scale of MIHE-ACE to evaluate the state of mindfulness, which is understood as a form of awareness and attention to present moment. And we used, yes, in the first part of psychological assessment, self-reports, but soon after that, we included in our study a behavioral task. The task was the white bear paradigm or thought suppression task, TST. So in this study, we used exactly a modified version of the original white bear paradigm to investigate the role of rumination trait and emotion regulation features. You can see the trials. The most important trials are two: suppression and rebound. Suppression is an attempt to suppress that negative mental content. Rebound is an effect of surfacing of some content, negative content. So it's a complex paradigm. We made this paradigm more complex because we added another variables related to the time. So we considered how often and how long the participant thought about the content in order to assess thought suppression in terms of frequency, but also in terms of time associated with intrusive contents. This is the procedures. The first part you can see the self-reports, and we use TST or behavioral task twice before a stress paradigm, included an harassment and a mental arithmetic task, and we use a TST soon after the stress paradigm. In this case, in order to investigate the performance before stress induced and after the stress induced. Okay, so you can see the results, and the first part of results, in particular, the differences between no-meditators and meditators on self-reports. You can see that all scale evaluating difficulties in emotional regulation were higher in non-meditators than meditators, with coins D big, so the difference was big, and you can see this observing coins D. But contemporarily, you can observe that some strategies, adaptive strategies such as reflection or mindfulness, were higher in meditators if compared to non-meditators. So in this case, we can observe that meditators reported themselves as more skilled in managing some aspect of emotional regulation. By conducting some analysis like ANOVA or repeated measures analysis of variance ANOVA, we can observe the differences between groups and within groups. In this case, I reported only statistically significant results related in this case to the time percentage. So we can observe that within non-meditators and meditators group, there is a decrease of the number of intrusive thoughts, negative thoughts, between the trial 2, suppression before stress, and the trial 5, after the stress, related also to the suppression trials. So, and in this case, we can find the same results or the similar results within groups, non-meditators and meditators. But also we can find and we can observe differences between the two groups, non-meditators and meditators, at the trial 2. So at the beginning, before the induced stress. And so we can observe that meditators reported less failures in task suppression in terms of time when compared to non-meditators. In general, considering overall sample, we can observe a strong relationship between all variables we considered. For example, specifically between some self-reports, scale of self-reports, and some trial of the white bird paradigm. In this specific case, we reported only statistically significant results, and we can observe that all scale indicated difficulties in regulating emotion are associated with failures in the suppression of content in terms of time. And the scale of awareness, AAs, seems to be negatively associated with failures in thought suppression in the specific phase of suppression and rebound. So I would like to clarify and make evident that suppression and rebound are the main phases that are related to the thought suppression strategies, and specifically to the failures related to the suppression strategies. So you can see the strong relationship, and also I would like to clarify that we applied the FIDR and also Bonferroni correction. In general, we can observe that meditators consider themselves more skilled in emotion regulation, especially in negative emotion. Even with respect to an automatic and implicit aspect of behavioral performance, meditators seems to be better able to use thought suppression as an adaptive cognitive strategies. Rumination is related to the failures of thought suppression, but only in terms of time, in the monitoring, suppression and rebound trials. And in general, the meditator groups show in both behavior and self-description the use of adaptive regulatory strategies, such as appraisals that allow not to be engulfed and overwhelmed by negative emotion. We have some limitation for sure. For example, the subject, the number of subjects are not so big, and the sample was relatively small. Online assessment, we used online assessment. We tested also the equivalence, to be sure, after the study, between the online assessment with the traditional assessment, because we are conducting a lot of study investigating the rumination constructs. And in the future step, we would like to consider also some features related to the meditators group. For example, we would like to investigate the reason, the motivation related to the choice in practicing meditation. No, for now we have selected some reason motivation such as self-knowledge, find meaning in your problem, suggestion, finding solution to your problems. But understand the first step, the reason in doing meditation could be useful to understand better the final results. I would like to clarify that the choice of a sample meditators was made to better gather and capture the presence of both adaptive and maladaptive cognitive emotion regulation strategy. And this choice of a sample meditators was not related to the fact that that experiments, were supporters of the meditative practice. No, but would like to recruit a sample characterized but evident dimension related to emotion regulation in terms of adaptive and maladaptive components. So we should assume that at the behavioral level, both groups may have reported fewer thought suppression failures after the stress because they focused or were thinking on their poor mathematical performance during the stress paradigm, or because of a learning process. And we would like to clarify that the ratings of failures to suppress content were self-reported by participants who may not have understood the task accurately or bad poor recall of details. So they can be kind of limitation of the study. You can see essential references, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Yes.
How can I ask her a question? Does she hear me?
Can you hear the okay, comments? Yeah.
Yeah.
She can hear you.
Ciao Agata, Filippo.
Ciao Filippo. Hi.
So, teach me something. If you can teach me something, because I always have this doubt about how to move between type 1 and type 2 errors.
Okay, I don't hear very well, Filippo, sorry.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, where is the microphone?
It's better. It's already.
Okay, I do you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Perfectly.
So it seems that I always struggle with controlling for type 1 and type 2 errors.
Sì, yes.
And in this study, it really seems that you are more concerned about type 1 errors.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but you have a very small sample, which increases type 2 errors, because you don't have enough sample to find the real differences. Yeah. And so I want to know how did you decide to control for alpha using bufferonic correction and false discovery adaptations instead of leaving it as is? Okay.
Yes, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. No, yes, I know, Filippo, it is a limitation. So for now we have obtained this kind of subject, the number of subjects, but in the future step we would like to increase the number of subjects.
No, but Agata, I didn't mean to make a criticism. I just want to know how you reasoned.
About the
choice of adapting alpha, for example, of using bufferonic correction.
Just to if I understood, I don't know, just because we would like to investigate just the I don't know, use two type of methods, Bonferroni corrected and FDR, to evaluate, I don't know, false positive correlation. I don't know if I reply you.
No, scusami, te lo dico in italiano perché sennò non si capiamo. Che ne sei in Italia? Cioè, io vorrei sapere, siccome voi siete esperti su questa cosa, siete proprio molto bravi, eccetera. Io, che non ho il vostro background statistico, non so mai se favorire la riduzione degli errori di tipo 1 o degli errori di tipo 2 quando ho dei campioni piccoli, no? E voi siete andati molto decisamente sul ridurre gli errori di tipo 1 e voglio capire come mai, cioè che cosa avete pensato in fare questa scelta.
Okay. No, I understood also before, Filippo, I don't know, but in general, when we have small groups, we try to use Bonferroni correction FDR, but also some of my colleagues, not me, use also Bayesian approach to test, evaluate hypothesis number 1, type 1. Okay, for now we prefer, I don't know why, first probably because the samples were the subgroups were small, we only made this kind of correction. So in the first step we try to I don't know, conduct also Bayesian approach to verify hypothesis type 1. Why not?
Grazie.
I think, Agatha, I think that, this is a problem for Luciano. Luciano is very statistics, so there is something that's very basic, and I think that you have to go back, to the type 1 and type 2 statistics, but I think that it is not your task at all, yeah? It is something about Luciano.
To read about it, we all need to read more about it, actually, to figure out, I guess, it depends on if you are going to be focusing on many comparisons, and it's like, that with that you are increasing for sure type 1 error, so you just decide to, but yeah, it's an important issue because our conclusions are going to...
But it could be on the presentation.
Okay, but it's nice to think about it. Okay, thank you very much, and we are moving to our last presentation because we are running out of time. So next presenter. Okay, so Francesca. Okay, now yes, Francesca Motola, validation of a new inventory to measure personality in adolescence, the Exaco medium inventory exam. So whenever you want, you can share your screen and.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to everyone. I'm Francesca Mottola, a PhD student, and today I would like to present you a work related to the development and validation new Exaco inventory for adolescents named the Exaco Medium School Inventory Extended. But before starting to talk about this contribution, I would like to give you some information about the background in which this contribution has its origins. So in the study of personality, one of the most used approach based on a lexical approach is the Big Five model. This model supposes the existence of 5 factors, but recently the attention of some researchers has shifted towards model beyond the Big Five model, such as a 6-dimensional structure, a 6-dimensional factor, 6-dimensional model, sorry. In this case, currently, the Exaco model is the best operationalization of this 6-factor structure, and the 6 factors are named honesty, humility, emotionality, extraversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, and openness to experience. The main conceptual differences between these two models is, first of all, the appearance, the addition of a factor in the Exaco model named honesty, humility, but also the appearance of emotionality in the hexagon model instead of neuroticism. Moreover, we can say that there are some differences, some other differences. For example, emotionality and agreeableness of hexagon model can be considered as a rotated version of their big five counterparts that are neuroticism and agreeableness. Moreover, we found that there are also some similarities. For example, extraversion, conscientiousness, and openness to experience can be are quite similar between these two models. In the study of personality in general, but specifically in the study of adolescents' personality, the most used approach is the Big Five model, and it was developed also a questionnaire for this age group named the Big Five questionnaire for children. But recently some researchers have adopted also the hexagon model in the study of adolescents' personality, but they used an adult version of hexagon questionnaire rather than adapting the item of this questionnaire to adolescents group. So for this reason, in 2020, Serge and colleagues have developed and validated a preliminary version of Hexago for 10-14 years old adolescents named Hexago Middle School Inventory. This questionnaire consisted of 48 items, but we talk about a preliminary version because it had some limitations. First of all, the items did not adequately represent all the phases within each factor, and moreover, the scale did not have a balanced number of positive in terms of normal and reversed items. So this study aimed at developing and validating a new extended version of Hexago for adolescents with improved psychometric qualities. In particular, within this general aim, we would first of all to provide a wide sample of items that can adequately represent all the phases within each factor. Moreover, possibly balancing normal and reversed items. Moreover, we want to verify this six-dimensional structure in adolescents' personality. We want to provide evidence about the reliability of this scale in terms of internal consistency, but also in terms of test reliability. So in terms of stability of personality adolescents at a distance of 1 year, and moreover, we want to establish construct validity of this scale and its criterion validity. So to achieve these goals, we conducted two studies. The first study involved the 714 Italian middle school students recruited in 7 middle schools of the region of Campania, aged between 10-14 years old. These adolescents fill out an initial version of Hexago consisting of 384 items. In order to verify our first goal, we first of all the responses were ipsodized. Then we conducted a series of principal component analysis in order to identify the best our aim was to identify the best 8 items for each facet. So with this series of principal component analysis, we could identify the best 5 items for each facet. Later, with an extension factor analysis among the remaining items, we could identify the additional 3 items in order to have 8 items for each facet. So we start with an initial version consisting of 384 items, so 64 items for each factor, and we could identify 8 items for each facet, except for the unconventionality facet of openness to experience, for which we could identify only 6 items. So we obtained an initial final version consisted of 190 items. Then we wanted to verify the 6-dimensional structure of this scale. So first of all, we conducted a factor analysis on the items. This analysis, parallel analysis, P-plot, eigenvalues analysis suggested the extraction of 6 factors. that explained the 28.1% of total variance. The Oblin rotation showed that all the items had their primary loadings on their pertinent factor, and in this case, the factors were only weakly related. To provide a further evidence about this six-dimensional structure, we conducted another factor analysis on the 24 phases. We obtained a similar results with the 6 factors, in this case that explained the 66.1% of the total variance. And also in this case, the factors were only weakly related. Then we wanted to provide about the internal consistency of this scales. So we computed alpha, Cronbach's alpha. As we can see from the table, all the factors had excellent levels of internal consistency with values that ranged from 0.85 to 0.92, and also the phases at least sufficient levels of internal consistency, except for the conventionality facet of openness to experience that had a very low reliability, a very low internal consistency. So the results of this study, the first study, were encouraging because we obtained a scale with quite with the good psychometric properties, but we failed in identifying 8 items for each facet. For example, we could not identify 8 items for unconventionality facet, and moreover, we failed in identifying a balanced number of positive and reversed items for each facet, so on consequence within each factor. So we added to the initial final version of study 1 29 items, and we conducted a second study to verify again the psychometric properties of this scale. This second study involved 1,175 Italian middle school students, aged also in this case between 10 and 14 years old. In this case, also for each adolescent, it was involved also a parent or a legal guardian, and in particular, we administered to the adolescents an intermediate version of Hexago consisting of 219 items. This version, it was also administered to the parents in an observer form. Moreover, adolescents fill out the Big 5 questionnaire for children and many other measures that we used to verify the criterion validity of this scale. For example, the youth self-report that evaluate internalizing and externalizing problems of adolescence. So we start to select the best items for each facet. In this case, all the responses were ipsatized. Then we conducted 8 unidimensional principal component analysis to select the best 8 items for each facet. And so starting from this intermediate version of Hexago, we obtain a final version of the scale consisting of 192 items. We verified then the dimensional validity of this scale. We conducted a principal component analysis on the items. In this case, the analysis, plot, and eigenvalues as the parallel analysis suggested the extraction of 6 factors that explained the 33% of the total variance. And also in this case, the factors were only weakly related. In order to obtain further evidence about this dimensional validity, we conduct a confirmative factor analysis on the 24 facets. This confirmative factor analysis had sufficient fit indexes, but we obtained that the factors were related between them. In particular, relevant correlation were found between honesty, humility, and agreeableness, honesty, humility, and conscientiousness, emotionality and extraversion, and moreover between openness to experience and conscientiousness. We also the reliability, the scale in terms of internal consistency. We computed the omega and the Cronbach's alpha, and all the factors had at least good levels of internal consistency, and all the presets had at least sufficient levels of internal consistency. Then we wanted to verify the reliability of this scale in terms of temporal stability. In fact, in the second study, we administered the questionnaire to a group of participants that have already participated in the first study. And in this case, the intraclass correlation coefficients for each trait, considering these two period of times, ranged from 0.65 to 0.76, and so this suggests that the exaco personality traits of adolescents were stable after 1 year. Instead, to provide evidence about the construct validity of this scale, we contrast first of all this scale with its observer form. In this case, we obtained that the homotrait hetero method correlations ranged from 0.54 to 0.69. Instead, the heterotrait hetero method coefficients were in general low and always lower than the homotrait hetero method correlations. Then we provide further evidence about it. We contrast also this scale with the Big Five questionnaire for children. We obtained that the correlations between extraversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness of the two models were in general strong. Instead, the correlation between openness to experience of the two models were adequate. And finally, we did not find any significant relationship between emotionality of exaco and the neuroticism of Big Five. But also we find other significant correlationship, for example, between agreeableness and neuroticism. But for time reasons, I will not focus on them.
Francesca, can you please go to the general conclusions, because we are running a little bit. Sorry about that.
Okay. So we can say that from this study, we through two different studies, we was able to identify a number of adequate items for each facet within each factor. The 6-dimensional structure of this scale was confirmed in both studies. The scale had at least good levels of reliability in terms of internal consistency, but we also confirmed that the personality traits of adolescents were stable after at a distance 1 year, and moreover we provide evidence about the construct validity of this scale that was established successfully with its observer form, but also with the Big Five questionnaire for children, despite some apparent anomalies. And finally, also the criterion validity of this scale was established. This study has some limitations. First of all, data were collected during the COVID-19 pandemic. From the confirmative factor analysis of the second study, we obtained factors that were correlated between them. The scale is validated in Italy, and also it is a very low. Another limitation is the length of the scale. I want to thank you for your attention.